I had an actor friend that wrote a book, and he said there's not a square inch of New York City sidewalk that hasn't been pissed on by man or beast.
That's right. Get yourself outdoors like Reverend Thorne, because this Sunday is Earth Day weekend. Reverend Thorne, you are not in your normal indoor sermon writing habitat. You are out in the earth.
I am, thanks be to God. I am at this wonderful spot, the Trinity Retreat Center. Trinity Wall Street is like a home away from home for me, and I'm really grateful for the folks here that make space available for me and have been doing that for me for probably about half of my kids' life, 6 or 7 years now. So yeah, I'm out here in the beauty. Just came back from hanging with the donkeys and the little baby chicks and the goats. It is an amazing place if you ever have an opportunity to be here, and very affordable.
Well, someone might think that's your inspiration for your Earth Day sermon, but you aren't preaching this Earth Day weekend at Riverside. We have Reverend Fletcher Harper from Green Faith. Can you tell our Riverside crew and anyone else who wants to know about him a bit more about who this fantastic guest preacher is?
I can. So Reverend Harper is a wonderful advocate for the earth, for God's creation. He's an Episcopal priest, executive director of Green Faith, and some of you may know that they are doing the work of bringing together our understanding of climate justice and eco justice with our faith. What does God mean when God says that we should be good stewards of the earth? What does that mean as people who are trying to live out a mandate to follow the leader and to love, I think, not only other humans, but all the creatures. So he's going to come and talk to us and help us to think about that a bit more deeply.
And that is exactly what Earth Day weekend is going to do. So we're gonna really find the intersection of two things here. Earth Day, which is a thing the whole earth celebrates. I think we should all the time. But then in the narrative lectionary, we are at Acts chapter 10, the story of Peter and his eye-opening, dream-shattering, what God has said is clean, don't call unclean. Cornelius, the Gentile, can be a part of this way of Jesus. That paradigm-shifting story. So now, neither you nor I are preaching this, so we get to have the luxury of just pontificating about that intersection of Earth Day and the Acts 10 text without a pulpit to step into. But what's your kind of approach? Maybe Reverend Fletcher's gonna watch this and he can borrow an idea or two, or other preachers. But how would you kind of hold that space of those two entities?
Well, two things that I'm thinking about, or at least wondering about, is this notion of what's clean and what's not clean. I think that we as humans, humanity, does live in creation in a way that makes it seem as if parts of God's good creation are disposable, not really worth our time, our care, our love, or attention. And so I think that could be a way into the text, this notion that certain creatures are unworthy, not savory, not good, not clean. The other thing that I think is an interesting take, and I think the young climate activists that we are also enthralled with might appreciate this take. What the text is suggesting to Peter as he goes to engage with the Gentiles is that God's mission is bigger than we imagine. And so if that is true for a Jewish Peter going to encounter a Gentile Cornelius, what might that say to us about the other creatures? What does that say to us about trees and the earth and the water and the animals? I think Greta Thunberg and those of her ilk would ask us those questions. How can we not care about the sun? I mean, our activities suggest that we don't care. And isn't God's good news available to all the creatures?
Yeah, our faith tends to be a very human-centric entity or human-centric thing, where we recognize we are not physically the center of the universe like humans once thought Earth was, but we still put ourselves at the center of all these universes we create and perpetuate, including religion. And what if our religious and faith identities could stretch us beyond our own navel-gazing to all the creatures, the rocks and trees and skies and seas all around us.
All around us. And there's that wonderful hymn, Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. And, our
Hmm.
indigenous siblings, I think, really help us to think in that way that the trees are our family. They are making this oxygen that we breathe. The rainforest matters to us. And we're seeing how the warming up of the oceans is also causing harm, not only to aquatic life, but to our life as well. And so I think to expand our vision of who is included in God's good news and God's kingdom is a really wonderful way that this text takes us into the Earth Sunday conversation.
I love both your entry points there, and that second one is in line with what my mind was kind of racing around the sense in which Peter had he thought he knew how he understood his faith, and it applied to this thing only, and then suddenly that lens was completely reworked, and he saw everything different, and it impacted the way he lived the rest of his life. And so often Christianity, it's so easy for it to become this, fire insurance or get your ticket to, beam me up, Scotty, to heaven someday. And we
Right.
miss out on all the good earth around us. I
Yeah.
often ask, is the invitation to escape this earth or to join God in reshaping this earth and all creation? And so Earth Day is obviously not the only day or weekend where we do this
Right.
work, but it's a necessary reminder of what we should be doing each and every day all along.
Right. Each and every day. And, Reverend Jim, you ask the best questions. And I couldn't agree with you more. I don't think it's about escaping this earth because I think we both believe that the intention is that it will be on earth as it is in heaven, understanding
Yeah.
that this is as good as it gets, people. Whatever we're doing here, this is what it's going to be. It's not the
Yeah.
sweet by and by. It's the as my homiletics professor J. Alfred Smith would say, it's the nasty here and now. So
Yeah.
reshaping that, making this good as it
Yeah.
can be. I think that's the invitation.
Yeah. I might need to double check my Greek, but I'm also pretty sure that everyone's favorite back pocket John 3:16, the word for world there is actually the Greek word cosmos, which doesn't just mean this planet. Cosmos means the whole reality that we know. So right there, everyone's favorite billboard at a sports sign, God so loved every iota of creation. The light that is still stretching from the Big Bang, God loves.
Mm,
And so we are called to
mm.
care for all of it because we're part of all of it.
We're part of all of it. I was just walking indoors a little bit ago with my kid, and we saw this ladybug on the porch, and we're like, "Oh, ladybugs for luck!" And everything is coming back to life now. The trees are starting to bud. I shared with you before that we were holding the baby chicks, the 2-week-old chicks, which are very chill and mellow, and the 4-week-old chicks, which are a little more manic. But we got to walk the donkeys this morning and feed the goats, and we're going to be planting potatoes tomorrow. So all of these things, I think, remind us of the call to love the earth and to count it all sacred.
Whew. Well, I mean, all of this is, I think, you can preach a sermon, but the things you're talking about are what it means to just embody and live that reality each and every day in the pulpit, in the pew, and everywhere we go. So wherever we are, take your shoes off and feel the dirt underneath that grass when you can find a corner of green park someplace. Brush those
Maybe not
ladybugs
in
and
New
bring them
York
to
City.
safety. Well, then just go
Maybe
sanitize
in
your
the
feet
park.
afterwards.
In
That's
the
all.
park. In
Yeah,
the
in the
park.
park. I
In
said
the
in the
park is
park, not on
good.
the sidewalk. Don't
Oh, you
ever take your
did.
shoes
Don't
off on the
ever,
sidewalk. No,
ever.
no, no.
Not in New York City. I had an actor friend that wrote a book, and he said there's not a square inch of New York City sidewalk that hasn't been pissed on by man or beast. And I'm like, yeah. So maybe Earth Day in Central Park, Prospect Park, Van Cortlandt Park. We've got some great parks. But yes, all of that. And I want to say that you don't have to get out into the rural areas, the farms, to have this sense. There is something of the holy in the city as well. I mean, I know that,
Oh yeah.
New Yorkers were always making jokes about the wildlife that we get to enjoy in the city. But so many people out walking their beautiful dogs, and certainly the trees that we get to enjoy, as my nephew said, scattered here and there along the sidewalks. But do take advantage of the parks and the waterways wherever you are.
Yeah.
Cut flowers that you can bring into your house, beautiful plants that I'm sure many of you have in your homes. There is a way for us to touch the holy in the beauty of creation
Yeah.
all around us.
Absolutely. And you know, regardless of what Marjorie Taylor Greene might say about New York City, I think there are still plenty of overwhelming glimpses of creation and beauty. And if nothing else, when you do live in a space filled with concrete covered in piss, those blooming cherry blossoms, that bright flower, they stand out even more. And if
They
that's not a
do,
sermon right there, in the
right?
midst of everything we've done to this earth, those pockets of life just give us the potential and tell us what we're working for and what we need to continue to strive for. Whew, that's what it's all about.
That is the absolute truth. Yes, we are going to see the cherry blossoms at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden later this week, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
You're right. We really are grateful, I think, for the earth and for spring in New York City in a way that other people aren't. When you go through
Yeah.
rough winters and have to trudge through all that snow, when life comes back to life, Easter and spring,
Yep.
you know there's a God.
Yeah. And this is the season of Easter. Easter is not just an event that's in our past, it's an ongoing season that we
Right.
continue to explore. And I mean, this is all echoes of your sermon from Easter Sunday, where all these natural cathedrals all around us, and Earth Day weekend is just another invitation to open our eyes and see them and move our bodies to step into them and to discover all the ways God has already been at work if we would just, you know, plant the potatoes and walk the donkeys and be a part of the experience.
Yes, it's an invitation to a story that is to be continued every
Yeah.
minute of every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Earth Day weekend, it's always a great one. Everyone's a great one. But I'd love to hear from all of you watching, listening. Questions about the Cornelius text. We kind of just dipped our toe into that, but there's a whole lot there that we could even further explore. But let's do that in the comments. Other preachers, Bible study leaders, where are you taking things this weekend with this narrative lectionary text, with the intersection of Earth Day weekend? How are you holding this beautiful intersection in your context? We would love to hear. And then, as always, we'll be back for more of these conversations about the Word made fresh next week. Same place. We'll talk to you then.